Guten Tag, my name is DMAD, and welcome to the first episode of AFTPOAC Zoo 2.0. So, if you've seen some of my previous videos, or you stuck with the channel for a while, you know that there was once a zoo I made called the AFTPOAC Zoo, standing for the Arc for the Preservation of All Creatures. And in that zoo, it was meant to show all the animals in Planet Zoo, and it was going to be heavily educational. I wanted to teach about the history of the animal, interesting facts, and the main part was teaching about their care, what zoos have to do to take care of the animals, and then in the end comparing how accurate the Planet Zoo info was to the info found in care guides. However, as I got into more common or more well-known species, I only did 2 episodes. It was the intro, and then episode 2 was on the okapi, which I only had to read 2 manuals. But as I got into the more well-known species like cheetahs, I realized that there is a lot more info and a lot more research required. And I figured I can just put that into other projects. I can work on other videos and come back to that later when I had help or when I was more adjusted to doing research. But I still wanted to do a zoo that has all the animals in Planet Zoo. So that's where we are today with AFTPOAC Zoo 2.0. I might do some follow-up videos talking about the animals, and I do want to still make things educational. But for now, let's just get into this episode. So what I'm making first is the employee building, and this is going to be a 2-part episode, or 2 parts to the episode. The first one is I am working on the employee building, just a basic one that has all the staff facilities that are needed in Planet Zoo. You got the quarantine, the vet office, the keeper hut, the employee room, the trade center, so all that. Adding a nicer little interior, and yeah. One thing I want to do is I want to try and make this, I want to make it kind of usable for, I can put it in blueprints and then reuse it when I need to. Right here I'm trying to do the doorway, and this is actually my first zoo that has an official, door. Everything else just has, an open doorway. So, thing is, the problem was that the door didn't quite fit to the frame, or to the frame of the door, so I had to make my own frame. Right now I'm just adding some concrete, making kind of like a little front porch. And I just went with a simple metal frame, just so I can cover up the entrance to the building. I was going to save it to blueprints, but then I realized I had to cover up that hole and add a roof. Just adding a few little keeper stuff, some staff, random things. I may come back to these and add more, but just adding a few random things, kind of playing around with some of the safari or conservation DLC. And then adding some statues for decoration, putting in the ceiling, and then adding a separate roof to the building. I want to try and make the buildings in this have a similar color palette, similar to what I did with Golden Grass Safari. So just adding all that, putting the paths together to connect it. Connect all the facilities while still maintaining that floor. And yeah. So now we get to the big part, and that is the massive hoofstock barn. This is probably my biggest building in Planet Zoo yet. It is meant to accommodate 13 species of animals, that being the plain zebra, black wildebeest, bongo, gemsbok, sable antelope, common warthog, nyala, springbuck, pronghorn antelope, okapi, aardvark, Baird's tapir, and the Bactrian camel. Or the Bactrian camel, I'm sorry. So, of course, it's not all the herbivores or hoofstock in the game, if you include DLCs, the deluxe pack, and a couple other base game animals. But it's meant to be kind of a simpler start. I will be doing all these exhibits, or all these videos like with groups of animals that are kind of related. So with this, it was like all the common hoofstock you'd see. I'm going to do an episode with like big cats, with bears, with one with other carnivores. So more on that in the future. I decided to push the wall back here because I wanted to make the stalls bigger. You're going to have inside stalls and outside stalls, or outside pens for all the animals to be in. These are just kind of like their little sleeping quarters where they can go during the night. And yeah, so each stall is, or there's 6 on each side, and then we're going to have one more with the camels leading out back. So just keep pushing the barn doors back, filling in the gaps, and yeah. So kind of trim down the barn because the original plan was to have giraffes in here, but I moved them in with the more larger herbivores like elephants. Kind of shortening the camel's inside area, giving it that gray color. And now, one of the tedious parts of this, the making of this video, was adding all the individual habitats, because I had to line everything up and then add the fencing, add all the barriers. So you'll see that coming up here. I was actually lucky to get everything like to fit together. That's just because I didn't rotate the building any, so it's all kind of on a grid. Here I wanted to add a like a fencing so that there was some, like it wasn't just walls in the habitat. You could see the animals could see you. Wanted to go chain link, but I think that looked a little too shabby, so I just went with the wire mesh right there. So making it about 5 or, yeah, I believe that's 5 meters tall. And then connecting everything together. And then just adding the null fencing on each of the edges. So doing that for the other side. So yeah, like I said, I do want to come back and maybe I'll do a follow-up video that talks about each animal individually, like about the history of the animal, because that was a little simpler. I just may not do the care, which requires a lot of reading of the manuals, but I do want to try and make this educational. So I just had to make all the fencing kind of line up, because I want things to be more ordered and structured. Putting all the different fencing along the walls, and then adding that top part to make it like look more sturdy. And yeah, if you have any preference to animals that you want to see later on, or if there's a specific order you want me to go in, please comment it down below. So, not much to say right here, as again, this was pretty tedious work getting everything to like line up, get all the fencing to line up. I think that this is one of my best creations yet, because I really do like the large barn look. And then I'm just adding the fencing around the edge, or around the outer side. I thought it was kind of too tall, so I went ahead and made everything the same wire mesh, and then lowered it down a few meters. So lower it down. The animals will still be able to stay in, but it won't be like really excessively tall. This was also tedious because whenever I would shorten, or I had to shorten the fencing that bordered the barn one at a time, so that I didn't shorten the fencing on the inside of the barn. So, and each of these stalls will contain one male and one female animal. Then I'm just adding the asphalt there. as it is flat because I am putting a concrete flooring in the entire barn. So the asphalt it's flat enough that I can cover it up. And then doing what I did to one side to the other, just adding one by one. So, again, not much to say here. I will have other videos that are kind of more dedicated to talking about the animals, about the information about them. So, just doing the camel habitat right here. And once I get through all the base game, I will be doing the DLCs, the deluxe edition, and all the mods. I want to kind of also include a bit of review with all the animals, why I think they're important to Planet Zoo, important to zoos in general, kind of what zoos do have these in real life, like on the Beckwatch. So, adding all the staff facilities, because I want to try and make this a little more orderly than like some of my other zoo creations, because I'm going to make sure everything has its own work zone, hopefully built-in staff quarters. That way it's easier, because in past zoos I've just kind of had staff running all over the place. There was no real order, like teams. So I think a lot of me working at some of the other zoo, me working at zoo this summer has kind of helped get more of an understanding of like how the organization in zoos is. So I'm just adding the own separate areas for each of the staff buildings. I'm adding this area as kind of a loading or storage facility, kind of a place that people can come and put stuff in before they go into where the animals are. So now I'm just adding a nice concrete floor. And this, again, was pretty tedious. Eventually, I started copying and pasting because it just was way easier doing it one by one. So, yeah. And adding kind of a front porch for all the animals, making sure that the concrete is right above the grass. And then now I'm adding the roof. Probably one of the most tedious part, because I couldn't just copy and paste and raise it up. I had to move one piece at a time. So, especially since with this there was no height grid. One thing I also noticed while looking at the barn itself was how big I made this. I may have made the corridor way too big, as it is, I believe, about 5 blocks wide, so that'd be more than 5 meters. I made it pretty big. So I may be coming back to this and adding more stuff like a storage facility, kind of more content, so it's not just one huge empty corridor with all the pens on each side. You'll see how big it really is when you have all the staff walking through here. So, and then adding the final part. One thing I decided to do with this part is, because it didn't quite line up like a pyramid or come together, I'm adding these glass panels, which in theory would be able to open up, so that I can open up so that you'd let some airflow or some air get out. Filling in this one little gap. And yeah, I wanted to try and put some pillars in here to make it look more organizational, but just with the grids and stuff, it just wouldn't line up. When I finally did line it up, I couldn't just copy and paste the items that made up the pillar, so that I could just move them to each wall, just because of how things were set up. So I decided against it. connecting all the paths to the entrance of the park and the staff facility. I also realized I needed to add a generator to this, and that was going to be difficult because I had the paths so set up, so I had to do a little maneuvering. And there was also some problems with the terrain, as you'll see right here. You'll see that it's more elevated and then it dipped. I'm not sure what happened with this. So, but I was able to figure it out. I added some walls over the side, kind of almost makes it look like a furnace. I just didn't want an exposed generator in there. So now we're just getting all the animals, all the species I mentioned prior. Like I said, we are only doing a 1.1, so one male, one female, because it is an arc. So just searching each of the animals, bringing them all in. Then hiring all the staff. And then, like I said, I am making every area a work zone. So I'm just selecting it, making the hoofstock barn, and assigning all the current staff which don't have a work zone, assigning everyone to these. And now I'm just giving all the parts custom, or all the habitats customization. Everything gets a water pipe as well as a medium hoofstock feeder. I wanted to put it inside, but because of the terrain kind of getting different shapes, I decided against it. And then the bedding, as you see right there, was messing up with all the terrain, so I thought I'd just leave that. Adding enrichment, everything is customized to the animal, so using the filter on the habitat for like each species. And yeah, I may also come back and like change up some of the habitats, like maybe I'll give the animals new habitats. This is mainly meant for education and displaying every animal, but I still do want to get creative. I want to make something, because I tried doing another zoo that was showing off all the animals, but it was more lackluster because it was just a bunch of pens. So it was kind of supposed to be a story, but I thought it was more lackluster. So I'm trying to make like an actual zoo. Trying to get a little creative, and like I said, I may come back to this. So, and of course, every animal does get its own habitat, so that there is no cohabitation in this, unfortunately. So, yeah, another tedious part was just going through each and every animal species to get everything like customized to them, make sure it had the appropriate enrichment to them. Of course, all the animals minus the aardvarks are herbivores, so say I changed the aardvark dish. And then with the okapis, I actually, you'll see it right, give me a second. See right here, I had a few more covers, because the okapis, they like more privacy because they are from the jungle. So then, the last habitat, again, being the Bactrian camel. Just adding all their stuff. And yeah, now I'm just getting every animal, setting them all out, and I did name all of the habitats after each animal. Make it easier than just like habitat 1, 2, 34, habitat 50, so I named everything after that. That way I know who needs help or what habitat isn't doing so good. So there's all the animals. You saw the wildebeest, there's the nyala, the sable antelope, the springbok, there's the camels, the tapir, the warthog, the okapis, the gemsbok. I did have the zoo open, but right now it is going to be closed. It will be open to the public later on. So, yeah. And there's all the animals. They're all seeming to do fine. So now we move into the aftermath. Like I said, I do want this for public viewing. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to add one piece of zoo at a time as I do all these habitats. I'm adding a little raised platform so that you can see the animals. Adding the educational signs. One thing I don't know why they didn't add is it like aligning to the path. Maybe it will. Or maybe it does. I just don't know how to do it. Adding the solar panels up front so that we have some extra energy, and I kind of like the symmetry that it gives it. Making this area a staff only so that people don't just walk into the barn. And then adding more, or doing the duplicate tool, adding all of the different signs for each animal. Right now they all just say Gemsbuck, but I'm going to change it as you see right here. So just changing it according to every animal that's closest to the habitat. So adding all the guest features like the trash cans for everyone, kind of just spreading them out. And then I'm going to add all the little park benches, just so that people have a place to sit. I know I did make this pathway kind of narrow, but since I already put everything up, I think it's a little too late. Now I'm adding all the trees, give everything more shade, and you'll see like different parts of the zoo be filled in at a time, as I've been saying. Kind of going for that more temperate North American feel. So yeah, next video I think will be on carnivores, but with that, I think we're done here. I hope you enjoyed this video and are excited for all of the different habitats and animals that I have coming up. I will probably do some shorter follow-up videos about each species, so they won't be like as long as these. They'll just be shorter for each animal, kind of hopefully making them educational and giving a review, so we'll see about that coming up. But with that, like I said, I think we're done here. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking, subscribing to the channel, and following us on all of our other platforms. The link tree will be in the description below. And share this video out to anyone who loves animals, Planet Zoo, or just zoo builds that include all the animals in Planet Zoo. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video, and remember, always be prepared, do good daily, and love nature. For your life is a canvas, and you have the brush. Auf Wiedersehen!